more adjustments.
So
We're going live with Robert Noerr. Kind of a last-minute stream we decided to do tonight. I don't even know Robert, I don't even know what we're talking about. So I hope you have something.
It doesn't matter. I think when we get together, we always find something. So.
Yeah, I'm feeling dead, so I'm going to let you lead on some of that. But,
sure.
All right, cool. So, up on there. And it's a long enough intro, so we'll just go. Okay. Welcome back to SJG Perspective, everybody. Is it always this camera? I always forget, and it's been a minute since I've done it. I don't know what we're going to talk about tonight. Like I said, we're on with Robert Noerr. I'm going to bring him on in 1 second here. Just before I do, I want to get some sound off in the chat about how loud we're coming in like. I feel like I'm really loud in my ears, so throw something up in the chat. Let me know how it sounds out there. I changed some settings on my back end. That sounded weird. But without further ado, let me figure out which scene I'm clicking over to. I think it's that one. There he is. Robert, say hello to everybody.
Hey, what's happening? Nice to talk to you. How's it going, everyone?
Oh, man. It is, it's definitely going, dude. It is definitely going.
Hey, real quick, it wants me to ask you permission to record. Do you see? When I click that, it'll say something for you.
You can, do I need to give you permission? Is that what it said?
Yeah, it says request from the host.
Oh, that would be me. Huh. How did I open up the, how did I exit full screen? Okay. So then, I guess what I need to do is I got to go here to say more, make host, allow record. Okay. There you go. I have allowed you to record.
Awesome.
Oh,
thank you for your permission.
You're welcome. I've graced you with the ability to record thus stream. And then I was like, oh, somebody put something up in the chat, and then I realized it was Robert. So it's the wrong. That was you anyway. Man, so your stream with Destiny, dude, that was good. I liked that. I was actually in here doing some cleaning up. What's going on? Oh, I didn't realize I have all that crap on my back shelf. I was in here doing some stuff the other night, so I didn't realize I didn't fully clean up in here. But
man,
anyways,
it's better than I'm normally doing. Most of the time, I have like laundry and bed sheets behind me, you know.
But no, I was in here and I was listening to that, and I thought you did. He can be such a prick. I thought you handled yourself really, really well with him. He can be such an arrogant a-hole, though. Like, he just thinks he's so much better than everybody. As do most of those far leftist, very, woke, intellectual woke, philosophical ones. They always seem like they're so much smarter than you. They love to make people feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, I will say to his credit, just to start with, he was very cordial to me in the run-up to, and I thought it was cool of him to invite me on.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, there's a Twitch streamer named Destiny. He's got a substantial amount of followers, close to 250,000, and he's supposedly a Democrat, a big-time debater for the Democrats. And so I debated him about impeachment. I did think that there was some condescension. One of the criticisms I'm getting from some people that would traditionally be on our side is, I think everyone wants, if someone like me or you debate someone from the other side, they want us to like spike the ball and just be like, look, you're a condescending jerk. We're not going to put up with it. But I understood that I was talking to 4,000 people on his stream live, as opposed to the normal like 10 or something that I'll get. So I thought that might be their only opportunity to get to hear from people that aren't for impeachment side of things. So I didn't want to get kicked off for being too aggressive. So I think I could have been a little more aggressive, but ultimately he was trying to, I thought that he was kind of making a ridiculous point 5 seconds into the debate, which was, oh, no. Anytime a president refuses to hand out aid, it should be impeachable. Clearly no one's saying that. None of the Democrats are even saying that. So
I am, the whole thing though, with this impeachment stuff, I'm so, like we talked earlier today a little bit about it. It is so ridiculous to me, and it's so transparent to where it's like I'm so worn out on it now. Like, the thing that we can come back to it. The thing that I wouldn't say worried about, but I'm getting a little more anxious about is December 10th, the big YouTube purge that is going to happen. You know, like, did you hear that? I mean, I don't know if you ever listened to Benjamin Owen or Owen Benjamin.
Yes.
Yeah. So he, say what you will about Owen Benjamin, you know, you really have to listen to the guy for a while to understand the context of what he is saying. He is a sound biting, you know, depending on your perspective of how you want to attack him. He is a soundbite goldmine. You know what I'm saying? You could soundbite him to hell. But when you take him, I think, in full context of really who he is and what he's standing for and what he says, I think he's a good guy. I don't think he's some racist, you know, alt-right or anything like that. He pushes against the powers that be, and they don't like it. Having said that, he's been X'd, as everyone knew he was going to be, but his channel's been totally X'd. In 3 years, he had over 100 million views, which is pretty insane to me.
Well, I think with him, like, just real quick about him, I haven't followed him for a long, long time. I do casually check out his videos, and look, I am who I am, but the way I present myself is different than a lot of the people I like to watch. For example, just take my comedy taste. Like, I like left-wing and right-wing comics that are some of the most vile comedians you can see. Like, you know, I liked Bill Hicks. I liked Doug Stanhope. I liked Robert Schimmel. It's not me. I'm not cursing and swearing like they are coming up with these controversial terms. So it doesn't bother me on the left or right if you want to be controversial and say, you know, things that could be considered un-PC. So I don't want people out there thinking, oh, yeah, you're okay with what Owen Benjamin says just because you're right-wing. No, it's not that. I don't mind left-wing personalities and comedians. They can say what they want, so, you know, on that aspect of it. Now, I do think that what you see is it's comedy or edginess is unforgiven if it happens on the right. If it happens on the left, people could be like, I know. No need to unplatform. So, yeah, I think you're right. You know, I mean, even Twitter's terms and services basically just changed. And if you read them carefully, it basically tells you, we can shadow ban you for opinions.
No, they're all.
Andy No just got banned from Twitter, or got for a couple weeks for.
He's clearly a racist,
statistics.
though.
Right.
He's so clearly an Asian racist, man. But you know, that's the one thing. Like Vosh, did you listen to that debate with Sargon and Vosh?
I haven't caught it yet. I have it on my queue, but I haven't caught it yet.
That dude is a douche rag, Vosh, man. Oh my God, I never knew of him until after. Hey, by the way, before we go on, I don't know if he's still in here, but I wanted to give a shout out to the Phoenix Enigma, Corey at the Phoenix Enigma. I don't got many people watching right now, but if you guys, he does some really cool stuff. I wouldn't necessarily, I would put it as esoteric type stuff. Like he does a lot of numerology stuff. Did you catch the stream when I had him on?
I did not, no.
He does a lot of numerology breakdown and stuff. Okay. You know, he used to be like a Wiccan and all this, and
awesome.
he does some really, really cool, real smart guy. He does some very outside the bounds, unique, I guess is the best way to put it. There's really not many other people on YouTube doing it. He breaks down videos, and he broke down the Las Vegas. It's more on the conspiratorial side of things, I would think, you know, is how most people would classify it. Although I don't necessarily think it's conspiracy. Just because it's a conspiracy don't make it not so. You know what I mean?
Right.
But anyways, I digress. Shout out to Corey, man. Hey, Robert told me to roll up.
Yeah, it's a friend of mine who watches my channel. Cool. So yeah, clearly you should subscribe to SJG. I think you'll really like it. What I think, like on that note, what you were saying about Phoenix, and that is something I'll check out. One of the things that I try, like this goes back to my debate with Destiny too. I think that the most important thing, I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, if you're trying to reach people, the most important thing is to be yourself.
Yeah.
And I think what makes us on the right amazing is, and as I ran for Congress, this was something that I'm telling people, look, we are the party, the Republican Party or the right. We're the group that judges you based on the content of your character. We don't care about your skin color. We don't care about so we understand that it takes all different sorts of us. Some people that are laid back, some people that have specialties in certain things or in other things. And that's why I really like hanging out with you, Drone Tech, and the other people we work with, because we all come at things, we're similarly minded in kind of our philosophy and politics, but we come about it in a unique way for all of us. And I think that works really well.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And it's so crazy to me that one of the things I was thinking about it a little bit today, and I haven't maybe given it enough thought to be able to perfectly articulate this, but I wonder when it happened. And I don't know when it happened, but I guarantee you, if you did a little research on it, what I'm about to say is you could break it down. Like Vosh made this comment to Sargon, Sargon Akkad. What? Yeah. No, did I say that right? Anyways, yeah. Sargon, yeah. He basically said that you don't have to be you don't have to be a neo-Nazi to be, or you don't have to be a white supremacist. What did he say? You don't have to be Aryan or white to be a Nazi. Nazis come in all flavors. And I'm like, I wonder when the left decided they had to change that, start to weave in and change that narrative to be able to call everybody Nazis, right? Because obviously a Nazi was what the original Nazi was, is that, a white supremacist, Aryan white supremacist. You hate everybody but the master race, and now they've, like you've talked about, you brought him up, Andy, they call him a Nazi, right? He's this gay Asian and he's a Nazi, right? So it's like, I wonder when they did it. I don't know when that happened, but I wonder when they did that.
Well, I mean, the irony is, like, how do you define Nazi? There's a lot of ways we could, or like similar terms they use, like fascist, white nationalist. Yeah. There are different ways that you could define it. So you could, Nazi, I think the way colloquially most of us would use it would be kind of like Aryan race, white power type stuff.
Right.
But you could also then use the word fascist to be like, well, you're a corporate fascist. So you believe in like corporate power. But then they play this clever word game where it's like, oh, well, you're a fascist if you believe in, cutting taxes for corporations. So that basically makes you a Nazi, like a white supremacist. They're it's intelligent, but it's nefarious as how they control language like that. Yeah. It's the same way with words like whiteness, patriarchy, feminism, masculinity, right. Whiteness, all of this stuff. They use these words that are vague so that they could shift around. So one of the things, it's hilarious to me about all these claims with Nazi, like, they use the tactics of the Nazis. They're using censorship, political violence, and then look at
intolerance, complete and total intolerance, and yet they say we're the intolerant ones.
Look at it's kind of funny. I was watching this video a Netflix video with my wife today. It was about the 90s, just like cultural stuff in the 90s. And one of the things it showed was the TV show In Living Color, which I loved. In Living Color. It was like the Black Saturday Night Live. I still think it's funny. But one of their segments, they'd have Louis Farrakhan, and it was like a big joke. Louis Farrakhan, he's taking pictures with the Congressional Black Caucus, Obama. All of these people on the left are, fans of Louis Farrakhan. He called Jews, he likened them to termites a week before the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting. I mean, he's one of the most anti-Semitic people you'll ever meet. Yeah. Yet that's not considered. They'll say if you have a problem with Louis Farrakhan, that makes you a Nazi. Yeah. So they control language so much that the actual act of fighting anti-Semitism, because it's coming from someone on their side, still makes you a Nazi, or still makes you a white supremacist.
Right. No.
And I saw there's a hilarious video. I wish I had it linked. This guy went. You know who Jeremy Corbyn is, leader of the Labour Party?
Yeah. I don't know how their parties. I always get confused on how their parties break out. Except I know Boris, whatever his face, is basically like the Trump of Britain, or whatever over there. Anyways, but I don't know. I get confused on how they classify their stuff. Anyways.
I just saw this. I only bring it up. I saw this video today. Now I'm one of the last people, even with folks on the left. Even when Omar and them are saying stuff that everyone's calling anti-Semitic, I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe not. I try to give the benefit of the doubt. But Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party, he's done things, and you can make your own judgment. Like, there's a 100-year-old book that says a lot of really terrible things about Jews. He wrote a foreword for a new edition on it. He's gone and spoke at events that were put on by people that have, called for the extermination of Jews. Make of it what you will, but this clever YouTuber starts interviewing people at a Corbyn rally, and they're like, did you hear what Boris Johnson did? And then starts saying all this stuff that Jeremy Corbyn did. And they're like, oh, what a Nazi, what an anti-Semite. And he's like, yeah, actually, that was the leader of your party that said that. And literally the one guy, this is the best thing I heard, the one guy's like, well, the Jews do have a lot of money. It's like, oh, so you're the anti-Semite. But I mean, that's what it's all about. It's not just with Nazism or racism. It's everything. Everything they accuse you of, that's what they're actually doing. So, when they tell you that you have contempt for others, you have contempt for poor people, or you have contempt for people that don't think like you, they think that because that's how they are.
Right.
So they actually do, and you could see it when you just let them talk a little. Remember when Alyssa Milano tweeted, if we put a wall up, who will clean our toilets? Who will mow our yards?
Did you see the most recent Alyssa Milano one where she was crying about the fake sting on the immigration, the university stuff, where she was crying about that? I wonder why she didn't cry when Obama did it.
You can make a greatest hits of just her ridiculous. You remember she came out with the... remember when Trump said he was going to pull out of Syria, and you had the image of the Kurdish woman holding up her dead baby that was blinking its eyes? But that video went viral for like 30 minutes until people were like, clearly that baby's not dead. They're using children as political propaganda. That's disgusting. But it didn't stop Alyssa Milano. Just a couple weeks ago, the AFP and Reuters put a story up that was... The UN did a study that found, I think it was like out of first world nations, maybe nations at the UN, the United States was like one or really high on the list for incarcerating children, kids in cages.
Yeah.
And so then the Reuters ran the story and the AFP ran it, and the Democrat War Room Twitter account ran, this is because Trump employs Stephen Miller, who's a racist. Only problem was the data was from 2015 when Obama was there. So instead of Reuters saying, well, that's still bad, these kids were in cages, that's bad, they said, we're sorry, we're going to retract the story. But you couldn't more clearly say, we don't care about kids in cages. We just care about attacking Trump. So that's what I mean. Everything they accuse you of. Now, It's not everyone. I have Democrat friends that are reasonable people. And there are reasons to not like the Republicans or Trump. I get it. That doesn't mean you're a terrible person, but the ones that control the party and control kind of our cultural institutions of power, they're complete hypocrites. Just ask them what their pet issue is. I guarantee whatever their pet issue is, the Schadenfreude is they're the worst on it. Oh, you care about climate change? How's your private jet going?
Right.
Oh, it's good, great.
Yeah. No, that's funny. On that Greta Thunberg, she sailed across the left must redefine vocabulary in order to corrupt our institutions and rewrite history. That's exactly right. Corey from the Phoenix Enigma, again, shout out to Corey. You guys go subscribe to his channel, the Phoenix Enigma. He just said the left must redefine vocabulary in order to corrupt our institutions and rewrite history. That is absolutely on point.
This is, if you read the dialogues of Plato, you understand the importance of controlling language. Like Socrates was a master at it. In debate, this would come up all the time. People would say something like this: we must reject whiteness.
Right.
And you would say, well, define whiteness? Because here's the dirty little trick. They can't come right out and say, we think you were born evil, right? Yeah. Because that's racism, like as clear cut as it could be. So they're like, oh, no. You have to make a choice to engage in whiteness. It's not just your skin color.
Yeah.
Right? Or like toxic masculinity, right? You've heard that term.
Oh, yeah.
Well, can a woman engage in toxic masculinity? Oh, yeah, I guess they could. But the reason they use those words is because they understand, unless you're diligently holding them to it and constantly saying, define it. They know that the next time they talk, they could, in one hand, they could use toxic masculinity just to mean mean stuff. But then the next conversation, they're using it to mean men.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same with whiteness. Oh, no, we're just saying whiteness is privilege. You could be black and engage in whiteness. You could be white and not have whiteness. It's just privilege. And then they'll go on and say, well, to be black in America, it's like, well, wait a minute. What does being black have to do with not having whiteness?
Yeah.
And Phoenix is right. That's how they, and you saw in my debate with Destiny, it becomes very frustrating. It's like, instead of having an honest conversation, you have to mire through and dig your way out. Every word has to be defined,
Yeah.
Bill Clinton, what is the definition of is?
Yeah, right. Well, that's exactly what it is. And it's also that they can, like you said, they can move those goalposts when they need to. And they can apply it when with someone who isn't really holding them to it, like you're saying. They're malleable on what their definitions are, so they can back you into a corner unless you hold them. Like that was one thing on this Vosh Sargon debate, is that he kept, like, when he started getting backed into a corner, he kept like, well, I don't understand. Define what you're trying to say. What do you mean by this? And it's like, you're not dumb, dude. You get what he's trying to say. You just are trying to manipulate around on what he's trying, the definition, until you see you're out, and then you're going to take it. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's I didn't see that debate, and I am going to watch it, but it's probably going to be very similar in that sense.
It was a bit of a dumpster fire, but I mean, it was like
right. The debate I had with Destiny was very similar. I think in that, look, I have an ego and I'm arrogant. I'm not going to lie to you. And if I'm engaged in a quote unquote debate, I'm probably going to try to win.
Right.
But I swear to you, my most important goal is, particularly if we're just talking like online, I'm trying to get to the truth of something, right? And if you approach a discussion or a debate with someone and you approach it and your number one goal is to win, as opposed to get to the truth of something, then you're going to employ all these rhetorical tricks where you're going to just disagree for the sake of disagreeing. You're not going to be true to your own self and opinions, right? So you'll just, right out of the gate, you know, like, so in my debate, I said, so it's basically, you know, the Democrats are saying that it's not that quid pro quos are bad, it's that Trump potentially used a quid pro quo to personally benefit himself politically. That's what's bad. No, I disagree. It's like, but that's, what do you mean you disagree? That's clearly what's going on. And so you have to muck your way through all of this, and then they feel like they won because you get frustrated or confused. And I'm sure it was the same with this Sargon-Vosh debate, and I don't care. That's why I think you could tell, if you listen to people go long enough, you could tell what your agenda is, because for me, you know, you could ask like, oh, so you think Trump never did anything wrong? No, absolutely not. I could give you a list of things.
Right.
But if you're unwilling to say your side ever did anything wrong, or you just want to change the subject and say it's all whataboutism, then that's a good sign that you're not interested in an honest conversation.
Hey, I totally agree. I don't know if Corey, are you still in the chat, or did you dip out? Because if you are in the chat, I wonder if this is something he would like probably look into. I don't know, maybe not. But did you see this? I just this is the Polish prime minister, and some people, there was an article on it saying he's making a gun gesture to the back of Trump, which I wonder if that was accidental. I mean, I don't want to try to be too conspiratorial here on this, you know, like, but like the article, that's kind of interesting, you know, and the article says, I haven't even read the article, but the article basically says, Polish politician Donald Tusk on Thursday tweeted a photo of him pointing a pair of fingers towards the president's back to gesture some alarmed Twitter users likened to a gun. Despite seasonal turbulence, our transatlantic friendship must last, wrote Tusk, whose term as president of the European Council ended at the start of this month. The friendly caption was offset by a photo of Tusk pointing his right index finger towards the back of Trump, who had his back to the camera. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be too, you know what I mean? Like, that could have just been an innocent mistake. But then again, I don't know, man. I don't know. Just
I think there is. I mean,
what do you think?
I don't get into this, but I do think there is something to kind of like in the ether out there of like symbology and stuff like that could somehow like sort of law of attraction type stuff that somehow could manifest into reality. But like I could do this, I could wave to you here and someone could take a still shot of while my hand was going up and be like, oh, YouTuber Robert Noerr gives white power salute on, you know, so who knows? My personal opinion is I try to give the benefit of the doubt of stuff like this.
Yeah.
But in the same vein, I mean, we know the story from this week that you had Trudeau and Macron and a bunch of them caught in a hot mic making fun of Trump. So
and you know what? I love that. I loved everyone was so outraged that Trump said, he's two-faced. It's like, what do we want a president, or do we want a politician in there that just says what he thinks? I mean, that is so awesome that he didn't try to be all political and play it off. He was like, he's two-faced. Yeah, he's two-faced. You know what I mean? He's a nice enough guy, but he's two-faced. Like, he just matter-of-factly calls his shit out on it. And I loved it, man. I'm like, good. Those are the kind of things I love about Trump.
Yeah, and I mean, the left, it shows you how we're in different realities. Or people see what they want, because as someone who voted for Trump, that, you know, I'm sure you're in the same vein as me, that was kind of tired of the establishment. You're like, good. I'm glad that the rest of the, you know, this globalist leaders of the world don't like him. Great.
Yeah.
You know, but then the left runs the story and they're like, see, Trump's so bad for our country because the rest of the world doesn't respect us. Yeah. Look, here's how I'm putting it. You could just answer like this. It's not a trick question, right? Like, under all of our obligations, the UN, NATO, have our first world ally countries been meeting their financial obligations?
No.
Okay. If you're a landlord and your tenant doesn't meet his rent obligations, does your tenant respect you?
No.
Of course not.
No.
So when people saying, oh, Trump's costing us respect around the world, they never respected us. They had Obama who was out there saying, we're sorry, he's a cultural Marxist. He believes the U.S. is at fault for basically everything.
I'm going to have to interrupt you there
world apology
on the cultural Marxist stuff. That's a conspiracy theory, Robert. That's a made-up term, right?
Yeah, we always say, just like the deep state is until they're tweeting about, oh, of course the deep state's real. And it's great. You know,
well, you know what's so funny, and I didn't mean to just derail you, but it's the left and the postmodernists, right, will say that language is a construct and it's completely subjective. But then when you say, okay, when you bring up a term like cultural Marxism, they'll be like, oh, that's a made-up term. That doesn't exist. It's like, wait a minute, you can't have it both ways. You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of silly to me. Anyway,
well, deep state's probably the best example. Yeah. And that's one of the things Destiny was trying to get me to say. Oh, so when you say you're against the establishment, do you mean deep state? I don't care. I will define, like, language is tricky. Like, what if I say this? What if I say, I'm tired of Democrats, always focused on race? Well, then I'll have a friend of mine call me. It's like, hey, Rob, remember we were out at the bar last week? I'm a Democrat. I'm not focused on race. Well, yes, of course not you, my friend. When I said Democrats, I didn't mean literally every Democrat. I meant those controlling the party. So you can always parse words like that. When we say cultural Marxism, like, what we mean is people that are breaking you up into characteristics and then saying, based on those characteristics, some are oppressors and some are oppressed. That's it. Right. You could say it's a conspiracy if you want, but the mere fact that how many years after slavery we're having a discussion about reparations proves that this cultural Marxism exists, whatever you want to call it. The idea of one group being oppressor and the other group being oppressed. Yeah. You could use whatever term because I'm with you. People tell me that all the time. That doesn't exist. Hey, what's up, Dib? Nice to see you, man.
Yeah.
You should check out SJG's channel. Please subscribe to it.
Yeah. What's up, WZ? How you doing, man? And Dib?
Yeah.
Dib, is that right?
Yeah, these guys are always on my video, and they always have good things.
Oh, yeah. Sweet. Well, I'm glad to have you guys over, man. This is good times.
And one of the things, and we've talked about this before, it would be nice to get subscribers across platforms, like with all of us kind of as a group, because I do think it's important. And by the way, if you're watching this, start your own channel, or if you don't do channels well, do music, do paintings, do art, whatever that express yourself, because we need to take the monopoly of the gatekeepers out, of the people that are controlling, like, the entertainment industry, the mainstream media, academia. It's going to take us at the ground level to show, we have a lot to offer and we don't need them.
Yeah. No, it is this whole thing with what's going on with Suzanne Wojcicki, or whatever her name is, whatever, Wojcicki. Is it Wojcicki or Wojcicki or whatever her name is, with the interview that she had with, what's her face here, the 60-minute interview. Did you watch that?
No, I didn't see it. Yeah. I know who you're talking about, though.
Yeah, I haven't broke it down yet, but it was, I feel like I'm too dark now and it's making my camera not work right. That is so interesting to me, how the stuff she talked about on there, about how they are. I woke up thinking about it this morning too, just the authoritative news, how like they are completely pushing. They finally woke up to the power we had. The YouTubers were having, and like you think about Milo Yiannopoulos, right? He gets completely shut down, completely deplatformed. He was one of the biggest Trump supporters back in 2016. Alex Jones, whatever you think about Alex Jones, he was one of the strongest. He would have millions upon millions of views. You have like Vincent from the Red Elephant. He had 28 million independent views on his channel. On his Facebook channel every single month, right? You would have, and he got shut down off of Facebook. They took his page down. There's another major one, like, Crowder. They've been going after Crowder. So it's like they literally are. I mean, it's not a secret. I know I'm not breaking any ice here, new ice, but they really are for sure going after closing down all the alternative voices, as best they can.
Well, you can even take politics out of it. I mean, for God's sakes, they went after PewDiePie,
mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it is, so I started college in 2003, and I was a comm major, so I wanted to get into news.
Right.
And this wasn't a conspiracy theory. They talked all the time about the gatekeepers of news and of the media and things like that. In the context that they were talking about it in the textbooks, it'd be things like this. Say that, a celebrity's child dies in a DUI. Well, that's way bigger news than 100 regular people dying in car wrecks. With even 100 regular Americans dying, that's way bigger news than 10,000 people from Bangladesh dying in car. Right? And the reason they'd say, oh, it's because we have these gatekeepers of the news and they control what they think that their audience wants to hear. So this isn't a new phenomenon that's existed. We could look in history to see at times.
Go ahead.
Right.
Keep talking. Sir.
Yeah, sure. Like we used to have gatekeepers of information back when 90% of the population was illiterate, right? So then who wrote history? Well, the people who could read and write. And we all recognize that that was a problem. The leftists talk about this all the time, right? Like, all of these old white men wrote history, There's some truth to that. The skin color doesn't matter, but there is truth to the fact that those that were educated, those that had the means, kind of controlled the way that the story was told. So the internet comes along. It's the great equalizer. Finally, we have a democracy on what you want to listen to. And what does that democracy show us? People like PewDiePie kill. It's not my cup of tea, but hey, that's what people wanted to hear, right? Well, they can't handle that. The gatekeepers can't handle that. They don't want the competition. And what I always say is the reason is this: the worse your ideas are, the more authoritarian you need to be in controlling the story. Yes. And you don't need to, we could bring anyone on and talk because we're confident in our worldview. But if the more authoritarian you are, then, and so look at the tricks they're using, because 12 Russian trolls that we now know a judge admonished Mueller, he's not even allowed to say they were directed.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica.
Trolls.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oops, sorry. Using Pokemon Go and Facebook, that outweighed $500 billion of spending in the mainstream media. And they use that to get all fake news. We have to go after fake news. Oh, Steven Crowder's fake news. Alex Jones is also fake news. And it's transparent in what they're doing. And it should, this is this appeal I'm trying to make all the time. Even if you hate Trump, even if you're a hippie leftist, this should scare the crap out of you.
Yeah.
Because they're going to use it against your people. Just ask Tulsi Gabbard or Jill Stein.
Watch this. You've probably seen this, but this is Sinclair's soldiers in Trump's war on media. So this is a video. I took some snippets out of this for the new video I'm putting together for my new song. And but it's a minute. It's like a minute long, but just watch this. So we've all seen this, but this was just, again, when you want to talk about propaganda, when you want to talk about the gatekeepers, when you want to talk about fake news, there's almost nothing. This is almost as good of as example as you can get. So.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities, the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about trouble and trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false news
has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 These are the ones we trust, right? These are the people we listen to and the most people get their news from. And this is how programmed they are. Let me just finish this.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Jeez.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio.
Sorry, I didn't mean to read it, but that to me, it's just, that I thought that there's a lot of people that have these collages out there, that can show this kind of stuff, but it's just so amazing to me that people don't get it,
Yeah, it's, and what's really troubling is then, again, it's another example of how people will accuse you of exactly what they do. So let's say for me, I'm not claiming to be like some ridiculous genius. I'm just like you. I have a job. I don't have a lot of connections or anything like that. I don't think I'm overly intelligent. I just happen to have a lot of time to look and a kind of interest in looking at the impeachment stuff, right? So when I look at like transcripts, I watch hours upon hours of the impeachment hearings. I read official court decisions, things like that. And then I kind of say things that are just matters of public record.
Right.
And the response I get is, oh, what? You watch Fox News? No, actually, I watch Tucker once in a while. That's about it.
Yeah.
But it's them. They are repeating the exact same talking points that they get from all of these. Oh, everything's been debunked. Everything's been debunked. It's all been debunked.
Right.
It's all been debunked. You know, and they repeat it. The walls are closing in on Trump. The walls are closing in. And, you know, I hate when people say that to me. So I'm hesitant to tell these people, like, dude, where are you getting this information? You know, like, for example, when I say just a simple statement, like I say, you know, Sergei Lyshenko, the Ukrainian parliamentarian, admitted to the Financial Times of August 2016 that he was interfering in the election to help Hillary Clinton. That's a matter of public record. People were like, oh, where'd you hear that? Fake news. No, I read it in the source material. Right? Like, what are you talking about? But they listen to Jake Tapper, and they listen to Anderson Cooper, and they listen to Rachel Maddow. So they assume, oh, you must have heard that on Hannity. Well, no, I didn't. I read it for myself.
Right.
You know, it's scary. I mean, it really is scary. But I think in a lot of things I'm pessimistic, but in this one area I'm optimistic, because I do think even on the left, I think that people are starting to wake up. They're like, they don't trust. The media is less trusted than either of the Republican or Democratic Party. Which
you know, it's like when I watch Drone Tech's videos, which he does great debunking videos and whatnot. Shout out to Drone Tech. I think everybody here is probably sub to him, but if you're not, you should. I can't stand, like, I don't even watch CNN, CSNBC or MSNBC, Fox, nothing. Like you say, the only person that I'll clip on the clips of is Tucker. And I don't understand how he still has a job. I don't think he'll have a job for much longer. I think they are going to try to get rid of him.
Well, the funny thing about Tucker is he gets crapped on so much by the left. A lot of what he's saying, if you just took certain segments of what he's saying, it sounds like he would be a Bernie supporter.
Yeah,
like he just did this clip the other day about like
corporate welfare, basically, kind of stuff.
Right. I mean, he's not a Ben Shapiro or even a Steven Crowder that's just like, hey, unfettered capitalism. That's not where Tucker's coming from.
No.
But, you know, he says things that they can't stomach. Like, for example, when he said the big thing they come on him, where he said that basically white supremacy was a myth or it doesn't exist. He didn't mean literally. Yes, there are literal white supremacists. What he was trying to say is the idea that it's a great threat to our country is a myth. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
And he's right. When you look at the grand scheme of things, it is not a big issue. It's no more. I mean, again, this is another. I have no love for white supremacists, by the way. I think that, you know, I've gotten crap on some of the videos I did. Here's a controversial statement I made, apparently. If white people tomorrow would decide they no longer voluntarily they don't want to procreate, I wouldn't care at all. Yeah. I wouldn't be one of these people like, oh my God, people that look like me won't be around in 100 years. I wouldn't care. I'm more concerned that people that think like me are around, or at least people that share my values around. I don't care what you look like at all. There couldn't be anything more irrelevant to me. But because I like Tucker Carlson, apparently I'm a white supremacist. So.
Yeah, of course you are. That's just the go-to. It's like, and that's the beauty about what they're doing and shooting themselves in the foot. They're taking away all the meaning from all the words: white supremacy, Nazi, bigot, racist, homophobe. They've used them so much that they don't mean anything anymore, and people know that. They just don't mean anything anymore. You know. I
mean, did you see Mayor P? Did you see the clip of him saying that the 63 million Trump voters are either racist or they are willfully ignorant to the racism?
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
and he was
first
one.
Off, just okay.
Didn't he have a couple years ago? I mean, he just had to apologize for back in 2012, saying something pretty blatantly racist.
I've heard. I didn't hear exactly what he said, so I can't comment. But I know that allegation's been out there. I mean, there was, you know, he's a mayor in South Bend. There was a police shooting, so he has to, you know, he's getting attacked as if he's pro-police, therefore anti-black, which is, false dichotomy, but that's what he's getting attacked for. So he has to go out there and virtue signal. But just doesn't matter. Take out like what's good for the country, just the game of politics. Here's something that when I was running for Congress, AOC was just getting big. And so people would say things like this, the voters I'd be talking to, because they were all Republicans. And they'd be like, man, these stupid kids that are voting for AOC and blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, no, wait, if you want to call out AOC, that's fine. But don't call out voters. And they're like, well, why not? And I say, did you like when Hillary Clinton called you a deplorable? Would you ever vote for her, the Democrats? Well, no. Okay. So if the goal is you think your ideas are best and you want to bring everyone along with you, don't insult the voters. Apparently, Mayor Pete didn't get the memo. He thinks that insulting a third to a half of the country is a good idea. If he wins the nomination, that audio is going to be played ad nauseum. Yeah. Rightfully so. Right. Mayor Pete, if you voted for Trump and now you're considering voting for Mayor Pete, just know that Mayor Pete thinks you're a disgusting racist.
Yeah. No. It's it's the only thing they have right now, and it's such a emotional fever pitch in this country. You know, we're so emotionally charged with everything, and we don't take the time to look into stuff. It's just like we talked about really the drive-by media, not to coin Rush Limbaugh here, but nobody takes time to look into the stories, and then all we got to do is emotionally get them into one camp or the other by using buzzwords, and most people are just hoorah rah. Like you go to these protests and you talk to people, and you see all these videos, and they don't know what they believe. They don't know why they believe it. They're just like, oh, Trump, orange man, bad, So we hate him. He's a rich, arrogant a-hole that grabs people by the poo-tang, So they hate him.
Like the best example of this. You could talk about why is he a racist? Why is he give me evidence. The easiest example, though, is there are people that still claim how much of an anti-LGBT person Trump is. He's going to lock gay people up. Like you hear people say this. What about Trump, either before he was president or during his time running and being president? I haven't seen one thing anti-LGBT. In fact, a lot of very religious people that are against gay marriage are upset at Trump. I mean, he flew the rainbow flag at his convention. He hasn't enacted one law or done anything. He's repeatedly said he had no interest in putting Supreme Court justices that wanted to challenge gay marriage. He suggested sanctioning or not doing business with other countries that have outlawed gay marriage. I mean, what more? But you talk to people and they're just like, well, he's anti-gay.
But he's not only what did he do for the trans he did something, and I'm trying to think what it was right now. He passed he's completely not, he did
the military thing.
But that's different. We got to put that into context. I mean, so many people want to say, see, he's homophobic because he did the trans the military trans thing. That's about a mental issue, guys. That's not about your frontline warfare type people got to be strong mentally. And it's proven, just if you look at the facts, that trans people typically are not. They have the highest rate of suicide. It was just up to a couple years ago. It was classified as gender dysphoria was classified in the AMA, in the psychological books as a mental as a mental, not, I wouldn't say deficiency, but as a mental disorder, right? So it's like, come on. That's the main reason why we're talking about why he is not having him up there, and it makes complete sense. But you can't make sense in today's world. You've got to capitulate.
It's not just a mental issue with trans. I mean, if you're physically transitioning, then it requires all sorts of hormone therapy, medication. Right. For example, I have asthma. Well, they're not going to let me in many areas of the military because my physical condition and the medications that I would need would make me a liability if I was front lines.
Right.
So it's. And just an aside from that, anyways, I think you're about to see in the next 10 years, the LGBs aren't too happy with the Ts. I think they're going to start to realize that, wait a minute, maybe we don't want to group ourselves in with this group because, I was just talking to my wife about this today. I don't care. I'm conservative. I'm Republican. My stance on gay marriage from the time I was 18 has been the same. Hey, if you're two consenting adults, I don't care at all.
Yeah, right. That's how I'm
Republicans don't like that. That's fine. To each their own. But that's my stance.
Teach your family what you want your family to believe and the values that you want them to have. But we can't go out there and if I have a relationship, with the person that is gay or whatnot, and I have a relationship with them, I'm going to treat them as long as it's everything that you're saying. I'm just probably saying it longer. I'm going to treat them the same as I'm going to treat anybody else. Up until the point you're flamboyantly shoving something in my face. I don't like heterosexual overt PDA and ridiculous shove it in my face publicly. Keep that to yourself. It makes me uncomfortable when I see two people just smashing on one another in public that are of opposite sexes. It has nothing to do. But then when you add to the level of what the homosexual crowd and the trans agenda is, of not just we're okay with it if you want to be that way. But if you have to praise it, you have to extol it, you have to bow down to it, and that's the problem I have with it. It's like no, you don't shove it down my throat, and we don't have a problem here. I'm not shoving my heterosexuality down your throat. Don't shove your homosexuality down mine.
Yeah. I mean, and like with trans, I do think that it's an illness of some sort. However, having said that, it's an illness I'm not going to treat anyone any different and I'm not going to, if someone tells me like, hey, I identify as a woman now, I'm going to try, unless they're being
an asshole,
somehow confrontational to me or rude to me,
twat.
I'm not going to, right. Hey, yeah, if you want me. Now, if I slip up, it wasn't intentional. It wasn't to attack you.
Right.
But
if you have an Adam's apple and I call you a sir because I thought you just were, for a minute there, you can't hate on me. I'm not gonna go out of my way to push your buttons, is what you're saying.
Yes, but like I will treat you just like I would treat someone with bipolar.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
or
you have
schizophrenia.
bipolar. I don't want you in my country club. I don't care.
Yeah.
Hey, we all have. I'm not diagnosed with any mental conditions, but every one of us that have gone through life's tough. We all have our ups and downs. I really do believe in kind of, hey, your personal choices or illnesses or whatever you're dealing with. It's fine. Now, you might think that's bigoted of me. If you're a trans person, you might say, how dare he say I have an illness? Fair enough. But just know this, as a trans person, I'm not going to treat you crappy because you're trans. Now, when you start saying, but we need to teach children about, the benefits of being transsexual, or we need to have gender reassignment surgery or hormone therapy for children. That's totally different. Or we need trans people competing in female athletes.
Yeah.
Those are real world issues.
Those are just ridiculous. That to me is just so but that's how far how far it has gone to where now when you take out the release of the avalanche, when you just take out a few pieces of stone that are on the side of the mountain, this is a terrible analogy, and the avalanche falls, that's what we're seeing now with just like you were just saying, the ridiculousness of the hormone replacing and this woke culture, but that is shoving it down our throat, all these things and telling us how we are intolerant bastards if we don't praise and worship this stuff. That's where I've had it. That's where the song I'm writing right now it's not really a parody. It's more of a real song, like a serious song, if you will. But it just is basically, I'm not taking that anymore. I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to stand up. I'm not capitulating. I'm not bowing down. I'm not giving you the answers or talking sweet to you in the ways you want me to. I'm not going to go out of my way to be an asshole to you, but I am not capitulating to the lies you are spoon-feeding me and want me to now believe. I'm not doing it.
Right, and Mark B saying in the comment section about a son that's gay and praying that he turns from that sin. I'm not a religious scholar. I'm not even, I don't go to a church, but I would say I'm Christian. My take on Christianity is just quite simply be like Christ.
Yeah.
And I think that Jesus, like when people talk about that, I'm like, you can give counsel and you give your opinions on if you think someone's sinning, especially if it's a family member. But basically, I'm not here to judge. That's not my game.
No.
Now, like you're saying, what we're talking about is different. But if someone's gay, I feel like, Jesus wouldn't judge. I'm trying not to judge. You say what you can if you're close enough. But I don't care. To me, it's just like, I never understood that, not to get in a religious discussion. I never understood why being gay, for example, is worse than having premarital sex. I mean, my reading of the Bible says that stuff's all bad. Well, I don't know.
No,
I'm not going to cast a stone, but I'm guilty of stuff too.
Yeah, no, I had the same argument, and it's hard for Christians to wrap their mind around it, that committing adultery and having, homosexual sex before God. I mean, I think Jesus laid it out the very clearest, when he said, you know, the law says that you shouldn't have sex with your, you know, you shouldn't commit adultery. I say if you've thought it in your heart, you've already done it, right? So he actually really blew open the whole, judgment scale, if you will, where it was like basically letting us all know, hey, we've all fallen down. Now, what I was going to say earlier, and I got off track was, if I'm in a relationship with and I have a friend, and I do have friends that are gay, right? And we over beers, we've talked about this, and they've said, well, why don't you like this, or why don't you believe in this? And I'm like, I personally, my faith is, I don't believe that is the perfect. Even from an evolutionary standpoint, it's like, it's not necessarily a natural thing the way God created and wants us. I think it's a state of our fallenness. Having said that, I don't judge. I don't let people into heaven. I don't forgive people of their sins. I don't do any. The only thing I'm called to do is to love the people that are around me, and like you say, be the best example of Christ to them as I can. And I think of Jesus when he went to the well, and there was this the Samaritan woman was there who was a whore, and she'd been married 3 times, and the person she was with wasn't even her husband right now, and the Samaritans were lower than dogs to the Jewish people back in this time, and so Jesus comes as well, and there's a Samaritan lady there in the heat of the day, and she's coming out in the heat of the day, so she doesn't have to be seen by anybody else, not doing it in the cool of the morning, right? There's all these, and he's like, he talks to this woman, and I'm not going to go through everything he says to her, but, basically he shows her grace, he shows her love. And then he does say to her, he's like, hey, go now, your sins are forgiven, basically, go and sin no more. And like, now your grace has been given to you, but let's revel in the grace and not abuse the grace. You know what I mean? Kind of a thing. Right. So I definitely, my point is this: I am not God, and I'm not going to try to browbeat somebody into submission. I'm going to love them the best I can. Kind of getting back to what Mark was saying, is that he was touching on the fact that it breaks his heart and whatnot of the confusion. And that's what pisses me off, is that there is an active agenda to confuse people right now, then to mislead people, to deceive people. And it's not just, that's the whole thing. It's not like they're just at home saying, hey, we just want the same rights as you. It's like, no, we want special rights, and we want to push our agenda down your throat until you say you really love it and accept it. And that's right. The part that pisses me off.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think what you're starting to see, the reason I say I think you're going to start to see the T's kind of get isolated, is there are a lot of, religion aside, there are a lot of politically reasonable gay people that were like, look, we just want marriage like straight people. That's about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which I agree with, regardless of the idea of it being a sin or not. We act politically, Jesus said, give unto Caesar. I don't see a compelling reason, and except religion, why 2 consenting adults shouldn't be allowed to get married. Personally, I think that maybe the government shouldn't be involved in the institution of marriage anyways.
Right.
But if they are involved, I don't see how you could discriminate based on sexual preference. Just my thought on it. But what you see there's a lot of gay people that got that. Now, this kind of goes back to the discussion of cultural Marxism. The problem is when you have these type of theories, these philosophies on life, like cultural Marxism, where everyone's either an oppressor or an oppressed by the categories they're in. Inevitably, those categories butt heads. Like, for example, who's more oppressed? Who do we have to stick up for? Islam or gays? Because that Orlando nightclub shooting, right, where you saw a militant Islamic terrorist shoot up 50-something people in a gay bar, all of a sudden the gay community in Orlando started doing things like taking gun safety courses. They started to question, like, wait a minute, why don't we have stricter controls to make sure the types of ideologies that's being allowed in this country? And they were basically told by the Democratic Party, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
You were our pet project in the 90s. Now you're done. Shut up.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what's going on with the trans stuff, too. Like, a lot of people that are just gay are like, whoa, don't lump us in with this. Yeah. We weren't showing up talking about sex to children. We just said we'd like to adopt kids and get married and be productive American citizens. Now we're getting lumped in with all this insane crap. And I do think that you're going to start to see, and by the way, it's all over the place on the left. They're eating their own. It's going to accelerate. As much as we're seeing it now, You see, for example, feminist. What was one of the feminist argument? Well, that the patriarchy and men had screwed up the world, and women were these vibrant, special, great beings. But then the trans come along and they say, no, there's no such thing as men and women. There's no difference.
Yeah, right.
So, but wait a minute. That's what we just had 60 years of feminist ideology that not only said there is a difference, it said one side's bad and the other side's good. And so, like, now you're seeing, I mean, you can see it in Twitter. What do they call them? TERFs. Traditional, I forget what TERF stands for, but it's basically a feminist that's against the trans movement.
Yeah.
They think that you can't just call. So they're getting censored from Twitter.
Yeah, I know.
mean, read Twitter's terms and use. You can't say there are only two sexes. You can't say it.
No, and that's why I just don't I don't care much about Twitter anymore. And so, and here's the thing: they're always, all these things are going to, like you said, eat their own. It's going to come back to roost. The cycle is going to right itself eventually. But like Phoenix was saying earlier in the chat, he's like, you know, you have to accept, and I don't know enough about transhumanism to speak to this. I should have him on and we should talk about this. That would be an interesting discussion to hear his perspective. But he believes transgenderism is just you have to get us comfortable with transgenderism all the way before we step to transhumanism. You know, kind of the transhumanism, which I've heard a little bit about, you know, like the mixing of, you know, biology and technology, you know, and then also even I would say probably some, I don't know, I can't completely speak to that, everything that he talks about on that, but I think that's a very interesting and valid point.
And so I'm no expert in this, but just my first thoughts that come to mind hearing this. There's this famous philosopher, I can't remember his name now, but there's this kind of debate, like, what is the value in life? Like, some people would say, my religion, that gives my life value, you know, so we should all seek to, you know, have our sins washed away and go to heaven, or things like that. How are we acting as a people? What should be our goal? Some people, I think you're starting to see, which at first seems
Have a good night,
noble.
Phoenix. Thanks for coming by.
Hey,
sorry, man.
Yeah, see you, Phoenix. It seems noble at first, this idea of the planet first, right? The idea of Mother Earth. We have to, you know, we have to save the Earth. And that sounds good, but actually that shouldn't be it. It should be humanity. That should be the idea that we do what's best for humanity. Now, that might entail taking care of our planet, right? Certainly. Yeah. But here's why the different, and I think maybe that could lead into a discussion of transhumanism, where, well, what does that mean then? Because I'm going to stick up for humans. I'm going to stick up for humanity. That doesn't mean abuse animals. That doesn't mean abuse the planet. But you could see how, if you say we need to work for humanity, how all that stuff rightfully falls in line. If you start with the idea of save Earth first, you could make a compelling argument to wipe out humanity. Yeah. You really can. And you see it, this Malthusian mindset where people are like, I mean, you see it in the Green New Deal, man. Yeah, like, you just, if you ask Greta Thunberg,
you see it in the Georgia, you see it in the Georgia Guidestones, man.
That's right. You know, you ask Greta Thunberg, like, if you're really concerned about pollution, if you're really concerned about greenhouse gas emission, and we only have 10 years, when do we bomb China? When do we bomb India? Right? Because they're not going to voluntarily give up. It's such a, like, just give me like 30 seconds here. Like, I have a friend who's a great, awesome person. He's a left-wing person, but I think everyone here would love an awesome person. I'm talking to him one day and he's like, yeah, we only have like 10 years and we're all dead. And I was like, because of climate change, I'm like, how certain of that are you? Pretty certain, like 85, 90%. I'm like, okay, so what do we have to do? Well, we need to just basically start right now ending fossil fuels. Maybe give it a year, but we need to end fossil fuels. I'm like, okay, well, take a country like India it's got a burgeoning kind of lower middle class, like we went through in our industrial revolution. Their life expectancy in the poor parts of India has like doubled in the past 30 years, primarily due to cheap fossil fuels. For example, some use coal generators. They have a very primitive electrical network set up in these places. So who's going to go tell them, hey, we know you like living to 50, but sorry, you got to go back to dying at 20 because we need to save the Earth. Because I'm 90% sure we're all dead in 10 years if we don't do this.
Right.
Like, do you understand the arrogance of that statement? Yeah. And I think that people, you know, they don't look at it like that. They look at it like, oh, I'm doing this noble, great thing. Well, there's two sides to every discussion. And when you're talking about authoritarian complete control over things like economic and environmental policy, energy policy, there's going to be losers. And those losers every single time are going to be poor people. every single time that you give the power the ability to control the energy sector and things like that, it's going to be poor people that suffer. You think Leo DiCaprio is going to have a tough time getting around in his private jet under the Green New Deal? Nope. You think the AOC is going to have a tough time? No, it's going to be where I'm at in rural Pennsylvania. Well, we don't have Uber. We don't have taxis.
Right.
We all drive to our 9-to-5 jobs, you know? We're the people that they're like, screw you, who cares? You know?
Yeah, no, that's like what you said, or like I didn't finish the point earlier when I was saying it, was that Greta Thunberg, she sailed across the Atlantic, you know, but she flew the captains of the boat in from wherever, you know. She flew them in from like some far off place. I can't remember exactly where it was. So it's like, wait a minute. So you saved all those fossil fuel burnings by sailing the ocean blue, but you flew in your captain to do it, you know. I would like to also make a point that'll be controversial to some on the left and the right here, is like, well, kind of getting back to a little bit of a maybe religious thing here, and this is just mine. I get kicked in the gonads by a lot of Christians when I say this. Is I don't know what I think about, you know, where Mark B was talking earlier. Dib and Mark are kind of going at it a little bit, but and then American, what's up, American Joe? He's getting after him a little bit too, but I don't know if I believe in I almost like, I just know I'm going to get nailed for this one. I don't know what I think about hell, like as a Christian, like, you know, like an actual hell where, and it would take, we can't do it in this live stream. I have a pretty good layout of, because I went to Bible college and all this stuff. I mean, I was raised in the church. Trust me, I understand the whole concept that if you don't ask Jesus in your heart, you're going to burn in hell, kind of a thing. Or if you're living in sin, you're going to burn in hell. I have a C.S. Lewis approach to it a little more, you know, kind of a thing where C.S. Lewis actually, you know, he made the which I have a ton of respect for C.S. Lewis for his philosophical and his intellectual, but he was a complete believer, you know. But he kind of talked about it, people making their own hell and missing out on the life that they could have by you know, living a life for God, living a life for Christ here on earth, you know. And I really think that means more being loving. I think Christians have done a terrible job at portraying Christ. You know, Gandhi even said, "You're Christ I love. Or you're Christ I like. It's the followers that I don't." A lot of time, and I know we're supposed to like love the church and love our brethren, and I do. But I do think Christians give Christ a bad name a lot of times in a lot of ways.
Just a little about me. I would say I was a full-blown atheist at one point in my life. The reason that I now consider myself Christian, it has nothing to do with reading the Bible or listening to scholars. It has to do with people I saw in my life that were living to what I thought was the ideal of what Jesus is.
Yeah.
That weren't judging, that were going out of their way to help people.
Yeah.
No matter what, even if I disagreed with them, even if I said, I think your religion's dumb, they didn't care. They still helped me out. They still acted Christ-like. That to me is what convinced me. It wasn't the science of it or the intelligence of it. Now we could, you know, so when it comes to the idea of hell, I don't know. I mean, I know that there's, you know, the Council of Nicaea, they put together all these books, what would actually be the books of the Bible. There was apparently a book of the Bible that was similar to like Revelations, and I'm not a biblical scholar, I shouldn't even be talking on this, but my understanding of it's like this. It was one of these books of the Bibles where whoever was writing the book has a vision with like the Archangel Michael, and this author, and this is in biblical times, like Paul or Peter, says, I just have one hang up. I have a difficult time believing a loving God could punish someone for eternity. And the angel says, well, the secret is it's not eternity. The secret is God is always all forgiving. And eventually, no matter how heinous your sin, you will be welcomed into the kingdom of God. You'll suffer, you will, but eventually you'll be welcomed into the kingdom of God. But we feel like if we run around announcing that, people might take liberties with that and say, well, who cares? I end up.
But see, that's where you have to take what Paul says. And when Paul talks about, he goes, you know, when you, I've received, and I'm paraphrasing right now, but he basically, the gist of what he's trying to say is, when he says, you know, you don't want to make a mockery of the grace of God, right? So like and I think when somebody understands grace, and this has gone off the rails a little bit, but when someone understands grace, people are like, man, you can't just talk about grace because grace, greasy grace, man, it's a license to sin. You just do whatever, God will forgive you. Well, you don't understand grace. When the impact of how amazing grace is hits you in the center of your chest, when you realize, wait a minute, it doesn't matter who I am, what I did, what I'm going to do in the future. He sees it all, God, and he's chosen to forgive and love me right now and who I am as a person right now. And decided just to tell me that he wants to lead me in a life of peace and joy and loving other people and being a loving person. He wants to give that. He wants to forgive me of all my bad karma that I've built up in my life and just start me fresh. When you understand grace, you don't want to tread on that grace. You know what I mean? You don't want to then flippantly just use it as a license to do whatever you want to do because you haven't really understood or tasted it, I don't think, when you do that. I think I didn't do a very good job of explaining that. But
No, I get it. I mean, for me, I just put it like this. Like, this is just me. I don't even care. Like, if your religion's something else, but you still live by kind of a mantra where it's like, wow, you're a really decent person. You're doing good things. You know, good. It doesn't matter. You know, as long as that's happening. I just ask myself this. I know when I lay down in bed at night if I'm ashamed of myself or not, and sometimes I am.
Right.
There have been those times where I don't like to look at what I've look at myself in the mirror. So I'm going to be the I know that people that are very Christian will say, no, there's a higher judge. And I get that. I understand that idea. But I think that if you really are if you're trying your best to be Christian, to be Christ-like, then you don't need the punishment because the punishment is you've fallen short and you know that you have failed. And, so, I mean, I know it's a tough conversation. I don't want to, I don't like to judge people. I don't like to talk about religion a lot because, it's divisive and, some people get really heated about it. But, just know I would call myself a Christian. And I just think that, I judge people by their actions, not by their skin color or the religion they choose or their, sexual preference.
Yeah.
And, my feeling is God will,
work it all out, man.
If God exists and is a loving God, which I believe that's to be the case, then I believe that he will show grace. And
I do too.
So
I totally believe that. And some Christians are like, well, then if you don't have hell, then what did Jesus? No. Jesus already. That's the beauty of the grace when we talk about it, is that when it says that, and I could biblically back this up, but we're not going to get into this right now because maybe we'll do it another stream. It'd be kind of fun to have one on this. But he basically says, you know what? He's forgiven one time for all and all, for everyone. So he's covered it. And when I talk about amazing grace, it's like, I think when we all die, we all stand before God, we think God's grace is amazing. But I think the amazingness of his grace is that even in the midst of our sin, he has already covered us and he's already forgiven us. And so it's like then the eyes, because right now you live in a world where we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, and powers of the air, right? So we're living and we look dimly into a mirror right now, the Bible says. So when the veil is pulled back and the paradigm that we are controlled with right now and fighting every single day that wraps around our mind like a fucking freaking cobweb, when that is pulled back and we see God as he is, nobody would be able to deny him. So I don't think anybody right now can fully make the full decision to follow him. Some do, and then others don't, and I don't think that's completely held against them. But having said that, I still think there's consequences to the way people live, and I think living a life right now with no hope or faith of existence is kind of empty. I do believe what Dib said, that you got to live this life. Absolutely live this life. Don't live this life just to live an eternal life, because then we're no better than Aloha Snack Bar. Peace be upon you. But we're no better than Aloha Snack Bar if we're just waiting for the 72 virgins when we die. Right? No, God said that I've come to give you life now and give it to you more abundantly now. So I agree with what Dib said, that we need to live this life. But just because we need to live this life doesn't mean we can't believe that we have a creator that put us here to live this life and to live it more abundantly. And that, yes, there is an afterlife. But you know what? An atheist or a Christian both live their life by faith, because an atheist can't prove there isn't a God, and I can't prove there is a God. The faith is the essence of what you're hoping for, and the substance of what you're hoping for, and the evidence of what you don't see. basically, what you can't prove. So we are all living by faith, essentially, right? And so that's just kind of what my take on the whole.
Yeah, I mean, just real quick, like if you're not into religion, and like a similar take on this is the concept of free will.
Yeah.
Like, does free will exist? Or are we just a product of our genetics and our lived experience that's basically a function? And so then you put in any situation and the answer pops out. Like, all I know is you have to act like it exists in order to have a meaningful life. If you ran around in life acting like, well, you know, free will doesn't exist, so I could just do whatever because it's all plotted out anyways.
Right.
You're not going to live very long. Like, yeah, you know, you might make some poor decisions. So I don't know. It's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And I will have to say, far greater people than me have been on both sides of the issue. So
and no, I'd like to say one more thing. Sorry to interrupt you on that.
Sure,
I just wanted, like American Joe said, I can prove there's God. I feel like I can prove there is a God too. Like, I mean, when you look up, I mean, I have no doubt that there's a God. When I look up to the stars in the heavens, and when I look through a microscope on these, you know, I don't really look through but when I watch documentaries where you're talking about the intricacies of cells and cellular biology, all the way to the macro, or, you know, the macro of what's above us, I'm like, how can you doubt there isn't a God? Like, there isn't a creator. There isn't a, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get that. I mean, that blows my mind to think this could all just be an accident and that it just happened, right? I'm like, nah, there's no way I can believe that. And I can believe in my own heart, because I know I can prove to myself that I believe God is for the change and what I have felt internally. But I can't, at the end of it, faith is the very definition, is that, you know, the substance of what we hope for and the evidence of what we can't see. So I can't physically see and touch God, is what I mean by proving him. I believe he's there, but that's, you know, anyways, that's what I mean, just to kind of clarify.
Yeah, I mean, I could, you know, just to play devil's advocate, which no pun intended.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, I've heard the opposite of that has been like, well, you know, I was in Bosnia, and when I saw the bodies piled up on each other, how could a God leave that exist? So now that, to me, that argument, you know, I don't know. All I'm trying to say is I understand that people...
You can thank Eve for that one. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. I tell my wife that all the time. I'm like, yeah, that's what you get. Your people took that apple.
Yeah.
See what you did?
You brought sin into the world. And
every time she gets sick, I'm like,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But, so some people were saying about me debating. Thanks, Maud. Yes, I am an awesome debater.
He's a master debater, if you know what I'm talking about.
I mean, this is a little adult humor, but if you'd like to hear this, one time
from God to really crass humor,
you'd get these jokes all the time. When I was in the debate community, people would be like, "Oh, are you a master debater?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to get a shirt made that says Clarion University." That's where I went, and then on the front, it's going to say we're master debaters, and then on the back, it was going to say also we jack off a lot, you know, like. But I don't think people get my style.
Yeah,
that would be funny. But no, I mean, but along with this religious conversation, right? So the idea of like not judging, I have to constantly tell myself, even when you're debating someone that you've heard say some, you know, condescending, crappy things, you know, about conservatives, Trumps, or people, flyover country, rural people, white people, whatever. I try to take a step back and say, until I am personally attacked in that manner, I'm going to try to give the benefit of the doubt. Because I guess you never know what's going on behind the scenes. So it's tough. It's a difficult line to hold. Because sometimes when you're debating, I'm trying to show that we can debate people on the left. That we don't have to resort to tactics of name-calling and things like that. And I hope that I can find people on the left that feel the same way, so that we can actually, instead of trying to win debates, we can actually get to the truth of things. But it is tough. I mean, I did a debate with actually a conservative here 3 weeks ago or so, and it literally started off, it was going for hours on Above Top Secret, a blog that I'm on before that, where he's basically just making, you know, homophobic jokes towards me and making weight jokes and, you know, hair jokes and the way my voice sounds. So it's really tough in that context to have a constructive debate. So it does become it becomes difficult. But I think, you know, and I've seen you and Drone Tech also talk to people that don't agree with you politically, but you can have a relevant conversation. If you approach it just as like a matter of this person's crappy or evil or whatever, you're not going to get much out of it.
Right.
I would love to debate more conservatives, Dib, on what I have differences on. I think, and I don't even know if debate's the right word, right? Like, because to me, a debate means a very specific thing. Like, SJ, if me and you're going to have a debate, the very first thing you need for a debate is you have to have a topic of agreement, right? Like, so we would have to, take something simple. You'd say the Yankees are the best baseball team. That's a debate we could have. You're arguing for the Yankees. I'm arguing for anyone else, right?
Yeah.
When you have a debate and it's someone's just like, well, Trump sucks.
Yeah.
Like, what is the debate? Like, yes, I guess that's true. Trump also doesn't suck. Like, those two things could be true simultaneously. And so it ends up in this nebulous word game where if you watch that debate with me and Destiny, the second half of it's just him trying to get me to defend policies Trump's done that I like. And the very first thing I say is, well, I think he's outing corruption. He's like, well, that's just a garbage conspiracy theory. And then he concludes, oh, so you have no good reason to vote for Trump. Well, yes, if you say every reason that you have is garbage, then I guess in that world, you think I don't have a good reason. So it becomes, I really thought I was getting into a debate that was going to be like, we both agreed, which basically most honest Democrats are agreeing. It's not quid pro quo. The thing is that if you had a quid pro quo for personal reasons, if the intent behind the quid pro quo was bad, then that's impeachable. Yeah. And I have plenty to say on that. But that wasn't the debate. The debate went off the rails 10 seconds in. So.
Yeah. So, hey, before we all go, since we got a couple people in here, I'm going to get in here in a second, Robert, because my wife will kick me out of the house if I don't. She'll be like, you just go out there and you never. I'm surprised she hasn't called yet, which is shocking to me. But I thought I would at least play you guys kind of the latest version of the new song I'm doing. Some of you guys have heard it, some of you guys haven't. But let me see that. That's not coming through. Hang on one second here. I didn't want. Why is that not? Okay, hang on a second. Second. That's going there to there. And maybe I've turned it down there. Now it should be coming through. Sorry. Here, guys. Maybe I can't play it for you. I thought I could, but maybe I cannot. Dang it. I really wanted to. I'm going to do this real quick. I'm just going to export the song real fast. Export it. Send it to myself, and then I want to play it for you guys here. It's that's weird though. Before I drop people off, hang on a second, guys. We only got a couple more minutes. Don't go anywhere. I just was so proud that I got this whole system set up the way I want.
If you don't mind me saying real quick, I think I might do like a half hour, an hour live stream after this tonight, and then I'll be doing some tomorrow as well.
That's not it, but okay. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I could hear it.
Okay, that's not what I wanted to play, but yeah. So you're going to be doing a little live stream when we.
Yeah. Otherwise, so I think my in-laws' dog's staying with us tonight, and he kicks me out of the bed. So I'm looking for an excuse to stay up a little late.
Oh, this is why it's not
Patreon. Yeah, I should start a Patreon. I know I suck.
That's so funny. Your dog, you're staying with your. Oh, that's right. You got your. Okay, now I know why it's not coming through. Now I fix it. Okay, so maybe I don't need a. Can you hear that?
Yep.
Okay, so let me run this back. So Mohammed Aloha Snack Bar will be happy to know I got rid of all the crazy hum. I set it back up to where it's going to play better. So this is the new song I'm writing, and I don't know how the mix is on this one. I think it's okay. Dance vocals are there. Maybe I'll bring my vocals up a hair. So this one's about the cancel culture and whatnot that we have going on. And I'm going to switch to this view so the background music quits playing. Okay. And so let me know what you guys think. And we got 12 people in here. I'm going to let it play right now. It's just a couple minutes long, and then we're going to end up here real quick. So new song I'm writing. It's still rough.
Makes it easier to but your logic dies. Be told what's wrong or right.
This is a scratch vocal.
And for your peddlers of disease, you'll gladly fight.
And for your peddlers of disease, you'll gladly fight. Anyways.
Freely giving them your mind. Swallow the poison pills they left for you to find. They seek and you don't try to hide. Your will now freely given to them, they decide. They decide. They decide. I will not bend the knee, my freedom will not bow. I won't apologize, this is my soul about. I won't accept the lies you want me to believe. I lift my voice in truth and my thoughts will be free.
I gotta redo the vocals because they're.
Is this totally original, or are you sampling something?
Yeah, no, I made this.
That's awesome.
Reverb resonates. You practice projecting on me all of your hate. Your reflection you don't recognize. You climb the ladder of identity to win your sacred prize. Sacred prize. Sacred prize. I will not bend the knee, my freedom will not bow. I won't apologize, this is my soul about. I won't accept the lies you want me to believe. I lift my voice in truth and my thoughts will be free. My thoughts will be free.
I like this bridge. Right here.
Your truth, the construct you create, a tool you will to silence and to castigate. You now become what it is that you so despise. You're trapped inside your empty thoughts, behind your little mask of lies. I tolerate you, demand from me, come and worship at the altar of diversity. You better think right or it is blasphemy. Self-censor what you say, apologize to me. I won't give up and I won't give in, and I won't repent from your made-up sin, and I won't accept or capitulate to your fake virtue and your made-up hate. We won't give up and we won't give in, and we won't repent from your made-up sins. We won't accept or capitulate to your fake virtue and your made-up. Will not bend the knee, my freedom will not bow. I won't apologize, this is my soul about. I won't accept the lies you want me to believe. I lift my voice in truth, and my thoughts will be free. We'll be free. We'll be.
That's cool, Dib. You don't have to love it. But yeah, this is totally a rough cut. Basically, it's like my acoustic part I think is good, and my drums are good, and everything else is still rough. Like just scratch tracks, basically. But
I think you have a kind of a. To me, it sounds kind of like a ZZ Top's sound going to it.
I wasn't going for a ZZ Top, but that's cool.
Yeah, like what's the lead singer? I think your voice sounds like his a little when you're getting a little more loud.
Yeah, no, I definitely have to stream. There's so much gravity stuck in the stream. Yeah, I definitely need to tighten up some parts on it for sure. Like, but because my I don't like my vocal on. My vocal right now is really weak. It's not punchy enough, and I'm going to redo some other parts. Maybe I can get Maybe I can get Aloha Mohammed snack bar to play the bass for it. It doesn't even have a bass part in it yet, but no, I mean, and you know what? That's totally, I don't care. Like Dib says, sorry, SG, not digging it. That was a respectful way of saying, it's not really my cup of tea. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Not everyone's going to dig it, you know?
Well, that's what I'm talking about, though. Everybody, like people with my debate with Destiny. Oh, you're too nice. You're this and that. I respect that. I respect people have, they might not like what I'm doing or they might have criticism, but I just like the fact that there are people kind of doing their own thing. So I, you know, when it comes to like artisticness, I suck. I'm bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
I couldn't write a song to save my life.
I am now getting, and this is the first song I've wrote and really played my guitar to in months. And so like, I'm getting back into that now. Cause that's used to be what I did. I just was like, I wrote a lot and I had a lot of better songs that were, I think they were pretty good songs and they were produced pretty well for me producing them, you know, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. But I'm getting back into that and I am going to start doing some streams with I have my looper foot pedal. I'm going to start doing some like live music streams and stuff too, just for the fun of it. But yeah, I want to start, you know, kind of cracking out a little more on that for sure. But you know what, dude?
Well, hey man, yeah, I appreciate it. I'm going to do a live stream over on my channel just for a minute because I remembered something I wanted to talk about.
Run
but
through
I
it.
really thank you for having me on. And I would like to do more stuff like this in the future. Like, I actually kind of like this format of, we didn't really have an idea what to talk. We ended up talking about religion. If you would have gave me 100 guesses what we would have talked about, that would have been very low.
I know, you know
I
what?
think that,
this is a good, and we had like 12. I mean, we kept a good amount for my size of channel. We kept a good amount of people in the chat, you know, the whole time. So we hit as high as like 16 at one time. So that was cool.
And I think that one of the things that both of us do well at is we both respond to kind of what the audience is talking about. We try to. So, I mean, that's something, if we had 5,000 people watching, like we're watching me in the Destiny debate, it's impossible to, like, when someone says something, it's like, dude, it's flashing down the screen.
Yeah, I know.
But I would love to do this again in the future. My schedule is normally I work like Sunday through Wednesday block shifts.
Yeah.
So like, if you wanted to start setting up, like trying to do something weekly, I think that'd be great. Just depending on what your schedule is. But I think I definitely think that it's a worthwhile conversation. Or even if it's not me, even if you're bringing other people on weekly, I could just hang out.
Yeah, no, well, we're going to do on Saturday. I had been doing weekly Saturday streams with Rational, and then Drone was on the first one we did, and then it's just been Rational. So I'm trying to do them on Saturdays too, in the, you know, afternoon on Saturdays. So I'll let you know if we do one, and we'll get you on there too, for sure. And you know what? For everybody's differing disagreements, I appreciate everyone being here. That even goes for you, Dib. Even though you didn't like my song, you're welcome back. Even though
he's a great guy. Dib is a great guy.
Even though you're an atheist, you're a God-hating atheist. We'll welcome you back. And for everybody else, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out. And aloha, Mohammed Snack Bar. We love you. Thank you for being a great moderator. And I will. I'll shoot you a Hangouts later, Mohammed. And I'll ship it over to you for you to lay down some bass tracks on. That would be cool. Yeah, I got to produce that a little more. I'm going to see if I can't change Dib's mind on it. You know, maybe he doesn't dig it. Maybe he's more into, like, you know, folksy music, I would imagine, or
house music. I'm guessing house music.
Oh, yeah, he's more of a house music kind of guy. Anyways, we're just kidding. We're just flipping it back at you, Dib. Anyways, you guys have a great rest of your night. Everyone, thank you for hanging out. And I'm going to sign off, Robert. I think I'll just sign off from you too, Robert, so you can get right at your stream.
All right. Hey, thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
All right. We'll talk to you guys all later. Have a good night. And peace out, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. All right, Rob. I'm going to stop streaming here in just 1 second. Thanks for hanging out, man.
Hey, thank you. I had a blast.